Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful technique that actors use to keep this almost unbreakable focus, especially when they're under a ton of pressure. And honestly, it's a secret that can help pretty much anyone who has to perform or present or just concentrate in our super distracting world. So let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? Maybe you're giving a speech or a huge presentation at work, or you're just in a tough conversation, and all those eyes on you just make your brain shut down. For an actor, that's not a rare thing. That's a challenge they have to face every single night. You see, for an actor on stage, the audience isn't really a group of individual people. It's this giant, dark, kind of terrifying void. They call it a black hole because that's what it does. It just sucks away your focus, your energy, and your ability to be real. And this quote from an acting student just says it all. They understood that this wasn't some small distraction they could just ignore. No, it was a fundamental wall blocking their creativity. That feeling of being watched was literally stopping them from making any progress at all. So, to tackle this head on, a really famous acting director decided to put this whole idea to the test. He had this theory. If the drama on stage was just intense enough, the actors would have no choice but to focus, and they'd forget the audience was even there. So he cooked up this pretty extreme experiment. The scenario he created was, it was completely over the top. You've got a guy counting a ton of public money. His brother-in-law, who's not all there, decides to just throw it all in the fire. Then the wife runs in, the brother passes out, and in all the chaos, their baby tragically drowned. The director figured, with all that going on, how could the actors not be completely lost in the story? But here's the kicker. It didn't work. It was a total failure. Even when they tried lowering the curtain so the actors couldn't see the audience, they were still, as he put it, squeezing feelings out, faking the emotion instead of actually feeling it. And that proved something huge. The problem wasn't the audience. The problem was inside the actor's own mind. So if a story with that much drama couldn't get them to focus, what on earth could? Well, the director revealed that the solution wasn't something big and dramatic at all. It was something surprisingly small and simple. The secret weapon is what he called a point of attention. Basically, a specific thing to anchor your focus on. And here's the one critical rule. That anchor has to be on the stage with the actor, not out there in the dark. It sounds like a tiny shift, but believe me, it changes everything. And this is where the genius of it really shines. The director gave the actors these tiny, almost mundane tasks to do. Things like untangling a piece of string, or picking up a bunch of spilled nails, or just really studying a pattern on a table. And what happened? Suddenly, they were completely absorbed. By focusing on these simple little actions, they totally forgot about the big black hole of the audience. And this quote just nails it. The key isn't to actively fight off distractions. It's to find something right there in front of you that's so attractive, so interesting, that the distractions just fade away all on their own. Now, this idea of focused attraction can actually be developed into a whole system. It's not just about randomly picking an object. It's a real, disciplined practice for building an unbreakable bubble of concentration. The director called this training method the circles of attention, and the logic is simple. You build your focus like a muscle. You start with a small, super manageable circle, just you and the things you can literally touch. Once you can hold your attention there, you slowly expand it outward to a medium circle, then a large one, making sure you never lose that solid core of concentration. The whole point of this is to reach a state he called solitude in public. It sounds like a contradiction, right? How can you be in public and have solitude? But it's this feeling of being completely focused, creating a kind of mental shell around yourself, where you feel as private and at ease as if you were totally alone, even with 1,000 people watching. To really show how powerful this kind of focus can be, the director loved to tell this old story. It's about a test to find the one person with the kind of unshakable concentration needed to be a leader. So here's the test. A candidate had to walk the entire length of the city walls while carrying a bowl of milk filled right to the very brim. The challenge? Don't spill a single drop. But there was a catch, of course. The entire city was going to do everything it could to distract them. Lots of people tried, and they all failed. They'd get startled by the noise, the chaos, and spill the milk. But then, one man started his walk. People were screaming at him. Soldiers were firing their guns right next to him. And he didn't even flinch.
He walked the whole way without spilling one drop. When the Maharaja asked him, "How did you do that? Didn't you hear the shouts, the gunshots?" His answer was so simple, it's brilliant. He said, "No, I was watching the milk." You see, his entire world, his entire point of attention was that bowl of milk. His focus wasn't just strong, it was absolute.
But there's another deeper layer to all this. Because mastering your attention isn't just some mechanical trick. It's really about engaging both your mind and your heart.
So the director explains there are two types of attention. There's intellectual attention, which is just observing facts. How many branches does that chandelier have? It's mechanical. But then there's emotional attention. And that's where you start to wonder, do I like it? Did it once hang in Napoleon's room? That's when you're truly engaged, because you're tapping into your interest, your imagination.
And this is absolutely key for any kind of creative work. An artist's job isn't just to see facts, but to find the human story behind them. Like the example in the book, seeing an old woman pushing a canary in a baby carriage isn't just a weird fact. It's a whole potential story, right? A story of loneliness, of memory, of love. That's the stuff that really captures our attention.
Okay, so what does all this actor's secret stuff mean for the rest of us? How can we actually use this in our own lives when we're staring down our own black holes of distraction?
Well, here's your focus toolkit. First, you've got to identify your black hole. What are the distractions that paralyze you? Then find your anchor, your point of attention, a specific task to ground you. Use that to build your small circle, that mental safe space. And finally, engage your emotional attention. Find something genuinely interesting about the task. Because, as the director always said, talent without this kind of hard work, it's just raw material.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one for you to think about. In your work, your studies, your creative life, what is the thing that is so important, so compelling, that it commands all of your focus? What is your bowl of milk?